I like their fast drying, unlike oils, which can take days and weeks to dry. Acrylics just dry so quick, and as a commercial artist, I find that's a huge advantage, especially when you're doing lots of paintings for various outlets. So yeah, the fast drying, and also actually I'm less patient now as I get older, so I love being struck by something, and I can then reflect it creatively relatively quickly without waiting for the medium to dry. So the quick drying thing is really the priority from my point of view. Each one is different, and yeah, I think that's the kind of unique selling point of the portrait. With landscapes, you can almost manipulate them to some idealized impression you have in your mind, but I definitely think portraits, I'm certainly not overly keen on getting a perfect likeness, but they are unique in themselves, which means that you've got to think differently about each one, and that's a real challenge, I think, to an artist, you know, the colors or the features, just trying to find that unique selling point of each individual face. Yes, any elderly person, ideally over 90 or 100 would be ideal, because they've got a lifespan etched on their faces. And it's so much better as an artist when you've got a lot of information to look at and you can digest it and edit it. Whereas children and babies have really a clean slate. So older people definitely have more character. So yes, anyone old. Yeah, you know, it varies, because I kind of think if you're a beginner, you're untouched by convention. And what I mean by that is you probably don't have bad habits in terms of maybe overdrawing something. So for a beginner, I think there'll be a lot of the basics, if you like, of drawing and painting, but it's really about you initiating some of your own ideas. So I'm not telling you everything. I'm hoping that you'll kind of contribute to your own creative process. And I think for people who've been painting quite a while, I think on the flip side, you will have bad habits potentially, and this book will give you lots of fresh ideas. I mean, I'm really big on my research and my art history, so I don't really want to just give people the same approaches and processes. I've kind of thought, how can I make this more contemporary? How do we look at portraits nowadays with so much content out there on social media? So I've tried to meld that in with what I know about traditional art, my own process, and also what contemporary kind of outlooks there are now on the portrait. Painting. Painting, thinking about painting, painting and writing about painting. Yeah, I noticed after my first book with Search Press called Vibrant Acrylics, it was kind of like a tap that I couldn't turn off, because I started getting more and more work, which is obviously really good. But it's not something now I turn off and I put it away. I'm constantly, like say, I'm under some kind of deadline to be creative, which is exactly what I was looking to do when I was younger, starting out. So the dream has come true for me. There's no downtime. Yeah, I don't really go out at all, socialize. It's funny because when we go to the cinema, it tends to be arty films. We see like a film about César, I think it was one of the last ones we saw. Yeah, not much downtime really, especially at the moment because I've got so much going on. So downtime, sleep is always a good pastime of mine. But yeah, no, really, there's not much time to do much else. It's very boring. I'm not really good for much else. I've only had one other job, which was one afternoon at a fast food restaurant, and the rest I just decided after that I'm going to do something with art. So I started as an illustrator for magazines and newspapers, and I just kind of started doing more art-based jobs, demonstrations, workshops, and then gallery representation. So yeah, I've always done art. There's really not been anything else to interfere with that. No, that's not to sound, the only thing is there's always so much to paint. And also because I'm a working artist, I've got a backlog of paintings I'd like to do, paintings I'm working on for galleries. So there's never a point where I wake up and I'm bored because I don't know what to paint. I was teaching in the school recently, and one of the students said, do you spend 2 weeks walking around looking for inspiration? But really, especially nowadays, you have to be pretty much on the case every day and do something creative, sketching or thinking about whatever painting you're going to do the next day. But while I'm painting, I'm normally thinking about the next thing. So Van Gogh is, it's funny because at different periods of art history, you'll find someone who's extraordinary. And I really like Caravaggio from the Renaissance, Rembrandt. But Van Gogh, I think, he's a tortured soul, and he really painted through pure passion. There wasn't a commercial aspect to the work, certainly not when he was painting it. So he's definitely one that I think, I always look to refresh my own ideas. Quite like Glyn Macy, apparently he's quite a good acrylic artist. But those three, my top artists, I think.